for joining into another edition of the Falco Takeaway. Today, we're going to talk some NBA. We're going to talk about Russell Westbrook breaking Oscar Robinson's 47-year-old triple-double record. Russell Westbrook is now the all-time leader in terms of triple-doubles. And then I want to talk a little bit about an NBA playoff preview as we approach the playoffs next week. So to start, Russell Westbrook's record. Sure, I totally understand how impressive and how amazing Russell Westbrook's record that is. Russell Westbrook could pad the stat sheet basically as good as anyone in the league next to LeBron James. I mean, in terms of just stat padding and stuffing the stat sheet, LeBron James and Russell Westbrook do that better than any player in the league. The thing is, I know a lot of people are going to come out here and say that, oh, Russell Westbrook's triple-double record, 75% of the games that Russell Westbrook records a triple-double, his team wins. Sure, I get all that. But at the end of the day, it's not leading to playoff wins. And I understand it's a team game. I know you can't always hold one guy accountable. I understand all that. But Russell Westbrook has a lot of flaws in his game, which is why he can never be a number one option. And honestly, he's not really a great number two option. Sure, he makes the All-NBA teams. He stuffs the stat sheet. He's a great player. He could attack the rim. He plays his heart out. He's very explosive to the rim. I get all that. But at the end of the day, what is he really doing in crunch time? What is he really doing to help his team win? Sure, he facilitates, he rebounds, he hustles. But look how inefficient he is. Russell Westbrook at times from three thinks he's Steph Curry. And let me tell you, let me be very clear. Russell Westbrook is far from Steph Curry. The amount of poor three-point shot attempts Russell Westbrook takes, he tries to overshoot in terms of his pull-up mid-range. He's not that type of player. Russell Westbrook is a very poor jump shooter, and especially for a point guard position, he's a very poor jump shooter. And another thing about that is, as a point guard in this league, you can't close if you can't shoot. Russell Westbrook is not a very good shooter. Sure, we see him get hot. He hits a three here and there. He hits that mid-range pull-up here and there, but it's not a very efficient shot. How many times do we see Russell Westbrook in a course of a game pull up and shoot really poor shots? He makes bad decisions with the basketball in his hand. His turnovers are always through the roof, and he just has a ton of poor misses. When we see Westbrook at his best, he's attacking the rim. He's attacking the rim and finishing at will, and then he's facilitating to his teammates. That's when we see Russell Westbrook at his apex. But in terms of a half-court offense, Russell Westbrook is not very effective. Let me tell you that. He's really not that effective, and it's nothing that I'm that impressed about, if I'm going to call a spade here. And a lot of people want to try to rave and try to hype him up because of how hard he plays, this and that. But at the end of the day, where does he prove that he's a number one option? He's an MVP in this league. He has the all-time triple-double records. Where is there any proof that he's a number one option in this league? And a lot of people will try to say, oh, well, he played in the finals with Kevin Durant. Sure, that was a nice little fantasy, or that's a nice little Cinderella run that they had. I get all that. But it's really not that impressive given what type of athlete he is and his stats that he could compile on a game-to-game basis, day-to-day basis, and a night-to-night basis. And it's not translating to wins. Since Kevin Durant left him, he's been out of the first round one time, and that's when he was James Harden's co-star last year in Houston. Again, I'm really not that impressed by what he's doing. Sure, he'll be a quote-unquote all-time great player. Is he a top 5 point guard of all time? Hell no. No way, no how is Russell Westbrook sniffing top 5 point guards in the history of the game. Some undebatable top point guards in the history of the game. Irvin Magic Johnson, the greatest point guard of all time. And a close second, Wardell Stephen Curry, who I've said is the best player on planet Earth right now as we speak today. Another guy who's better, the great Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson is better than Russell Westbrook. You have guys like Chris Paul. You have the Kyrie Irvings of the world. There are plenty of other point guards who are more effective to have on your team than a Russell Westbrook. And it's not all about how versatile are you in terms of who can do the most things. Because in terms of who can do the most things, Russell Westbrook's on the top of that list. Because a Kyrie Irving is a very one-dimensional player. Kyrie Irving is an ISO scorer, and that's pretty much all he gives you. But how elite he is at that, that's why he's so valuable. In the sport of basketball, remind you that this is a sport where the name of the game is putting the ball in the basket. So don't come to me and say, oh, well, he rebounds better or he facilitates better, or he could play more defense. In what world do we weigh offense and defense the same in the sport of basketball, especially in the NBA? Please stop that nonsense. I'm done with that. I'm simply done hearing that, and I don't want to hear any more of it. Russell Westbrook is a great player. Take it for what he is, but let's not overvalue him because he knows how to stuff the stat sheet. When he could start compiling postseason wins and starts being a more efficient player, has a higher basketball IQ, makes better decisions with the basketball, then you can come to me. But for now, I really don't want to hear it. I really don't want to hear it. But that's in terms of Russell Westbrook's accolades. I'm going to give him his credit. I'll give him his flowers, everything that he deserves. I get all that. But at the end of the day, let's call a spade a spade. He is all not that, and it's not that impressive given that it's not leading to wins. But right now, I want to talk about the NBA playoff bracket. So right now, in terms of the Eastern Conference, as I pull up the standings, the Eastern Conference, we have the Philadelphia 76ers holding that number 1 seed as they have most of this entire year. The Brooklyn Nets, 3 games behind them for the number 2 seed. We got the Bucks, a game behind the Nets, the number 3 seed. And then we got the surprising New York Knicks at number 4, Hawks, the 5 seed, and the reigning Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat as the 6th seed, and those teams are guaranteed a playoff spot. Then we got the playing game, the Boston Celtics. The problem with the Celtics is, as we know, Jaylen Brown injuring his wrist, and he will be out the remainder of the season. That basically just erases all minimum chances that the Celtics had of getting out of the East, which they wouldn't have got out of the East anyways. But if they wanted any hope, they would have needed Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen Brown's not going to be there, so you could kiss that goodbye. You got the Charlotte Hornets, you got the Indiana Pacers, and then the Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal Washington Wizards at the number 10 seed. And then as we look at the loaded Western Conference, the Jazz still remain that number 1 seed as they have most of this entire year. The Phoenix Suns at number 2, the Clippers at number 3, the Nuggets number 4, the Mavericks number 5, and the Blazers number 6. And then we got arguably the most dangerous 7 seed in the history of basketball, the reigning defending champion, Los Angeles Lakers. We got, in my opinion, the best player in the world and MVP, Steph Curry's Golden State Warriors at number 8, Grizzlies at number 9, and the Spurs at number 10. Here's the thing with this play-in tournament in terms of the Western Conference. The Los Angeles Lakers. I made a claim a few days ago. The Lakers are done, and so is LeBron Raymond James. LeBron James is done. He does not have this. He's not the same player he was 3 to 5 years ago. Excuse me. LeBron James is not the same guy he was 3 to 5 years ago. He does not have the same bounce that he used to 3 to 5 years ago. He does not have that same quick twitch. He's not capable of scoring the basketball the way he used to. Sure, I could agree he's still the best passer in basketball, but he cannot score the way he used to. And the biggest thing is he cannot carry a team the way he used to. Any version of a Los Angeles Laker LeBron James is not the guy he was in South Beach, and certainly not the guy he was his second stint at Cleveland. LeBron's best 10 years of his career, I believe LeBron had a true 10 years of a prime, of like a heart of his prime, which was 08-09 when he won his first MVP, to his last year in Cleveland, 2017-2018 season. Those 10 years, I would say, were his heart of his prime. I think his heart of his prime lasted that long. I think once he went to the Lakers, we started to see a slight decline in terms of his bounce, his quick twitch, and he can't carry a team the way he used to. He can't. He needs to rely on an Anthony Davis to give you 25 to 30 points a night with 10, 11 rebounds and be an elite defender and lead the team in scoring. We know that Anthony Davis needs to be that guy if the Lakers wanted any chance to win a championship last year, which is why they won the chip, and then this year especially after him dealing with an injury. And it's not a knock on him. It's just the truth. And that's why they had to acquire a second ball handler, runner for Sixth Man of the Year, like a Dennis Schroeder, and then get the guy who actually won the Sixth Man of the Year award in a Montrezl Harrell, then acquire Andre Drummond at the trade deadline. In terms of teammates, this is LeBron's best roster of his entire career. And at year 18, age 36, he needs this. And the reason why I don't really believe in the Lakers is because he is not healthy. We know in years past, any year, I don't care how much his team is struggling. I don't care how bad he looks. As long as there's a healthy LeBron James, no matter what squad he's on, no matter who his teammates are, if he's in the playoffs, he's getting you to the NBA Finals. You know that to be a fact, and it's not something up for debate. That is a fact, and you have nothing to worry about. We've seen this movie time and time again. But with him not being healthy, I'm simply doubting him. I'm simply going to doubt him. He's missed 20 games in a row, which was the most of his entire career, plays 2 games, and now is missing now. Tonight will be his 3rd consecutive game missed again. So at one point, are you going to tell me that LeBron could flip a switch within the next week and say, okay, I'm going to play 40-plus minutes a night, because that's what the Lakers will need from him if they want to even think about getting out of the playing round, let alone winning a championship and getting out of the Western Conference? Where is he going to start to play 40 minutes and he could really carry a team and throw that team on his shoulders? Because that's what they're going to need from him. And I'm just at the point, a non-healthy LeBron, I'm simply just not buying it. Again, if he was healthy and they were struggling, nothing to worry about. Anthony Davis on the other side, he's been a guy who hasn't been reliable all year long. And all year long, he really hasn't been himself. Before he got hurt, he was averaging only a little over 21.5 points per game. He was not the guy he was last year, leading the team in scoring, giving over 26.5 points per game. He was a monster last year, and he was a monster in the playoffs. If you want to talk about the Western Conference playoffs last year, Anthony Davis was the best player on that team. He was the best player on the team. He was the most valuable player on that team in terms of the Western Conference playoffs. LeBron had a better finals, which is why he won Finals MVP. But Anthony Davis was the best player on that team throughout the Western Conference playoffs. And I understand it looks like Anthony Davis is back. A 42-point performance against the Suns, dropped 36 the game prior to that. The way Anthony Davis is playing, that's what the Lakers are going to need if they want something. So we see we're getting the production from Anthony Davis. We know what we're going to get from their role players, which I think their role players are one of the best role players in the NBA. But what are we getting from LeBron James? I know we've seen this movie time and time again, but we haven't seen it at this age, and we haven't seen him coming off an injury right before the playoffs. That's the thing that I'm a little concerned about with the Lakers, and that's something I'm not very confident in with the Los Angeles Lakers. Again, if he was healthy, I'd have a totally different perspective on this, but he's not, and we can't play the what-if game. We can't play the what-if game. LeBron is not healthy. Until I see him look healthy and somehow be able to play 40-plus minutes a night and do a non-human type move in terms of that aspect, then the Lakers will be back in title contention. Then they could be that really dangerous number 7 seed. But for now, until LeBron proves otherwise that he's healthy, the Lakers are no threat. And I want to talk about the Warriors a little bit. Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. It's a great run. It's extremely impressive that Steph even has this team as high as they are. Remind you, a year ago today, the Golden State Warriors were the number 1 worst team in basketball. A year later, nothing's changed. The Warriors are still the worst team in basketball. The only thing that changed is Steph missed all of last year, and he's back. Steph is back. Steph is giving you over 38 points a game in his last 5 games. He scored over 30 in 20 of the last 22 games. What he is doing right now, Steph Curry is toying with the league. And the fact that we think just because that team is not a top seed in a loaded Western Conference, given what his roster is, that he can't win MVP is utterly ridiculous and utterly disgusting, if you ask me. There is not a player in this league who can carry a team the way Steph can. LeBron James cannot. No way, no how. I don't believe Giannis can because we don't see it in the playoffs. Kevin Durant can't because we've never seen him win a title without a stacked team. We haven't really seen Kevin Durant ever play without a stacked team throughout his entire career, whether it was OKC, Golden State, and now Brooklyn. The last 4 years, he's been on the best team in the NBA. So why am I to believe that any other player could carry a team the way Steph does? Kawhi Leonard can't. Kawhi Leonard's a guy who you could place him on a championship-ready team and take them over the hump to be that actual team to win a championship. He's never going to be a guy where he could just take these guys and say, come on my back, I'll take you to the promised land. Kawhi Leonard's not that guy. The closest thing I've seen to someone simply just carrying a team no matter what they're giving you is Wardell Stephen Curry, and that's why I'm ready to call him the best player on planet Earth. He's toying with the league. It's not even close because nobody's on his level right now. The way that dude can create his own shot from about 25 feet to 40 feet away, get to the rim, play without the ball, play make for his garbage teammates, that roster is terrible. And he still has that team as an 8 seed above 500. What Steph Curry is doing right now needs to be appreciated, needs to be respected. But overall, let's call a spade. The Warriors are no threat to make any noise in these playoffs, and they are lucky to get out of the play-in tournament. I personally wouldn't pick them. I will probably still roll with the Lakers to get out of the play-in tournament, but I don't think the Warriors really have much left in the tank. They don't. But overall, amazing Cinderella story for Wardell, Stephen Curry. And then in terms of a Western Conference Finals preview, I'm riding with Kawhi Leonard, George Paul, and the Los Angeles Clippers. Here's the thing with the Clippers. I made a take before the season started that people are really sleeping on the Clippers. I think after last year, they were the title favorites all year long. The minute Kawhi signed with the Clippers, brought George Paul with them, it's, oh my God, Kawhi's going. The reigning Finals MVP is going to the Clippers, going to the crosstown rival, going up against the crosstown rival Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Oh my God, Kawhi's the best player in the world. Then he comes out with this commercial. LA's his city, Kawhi Town. He's got the crown keychain. Going a direct shot at LeBron James says, I am coming for you. I am coming for the throne. I am coming to be the king of Los Angeles. That's what he made his move in LA. But that was the first time in Kawhi's career where he really had title expectations. In 2014, he was not even the best player on that team. I understand he won Finals MVP, but that was not his team. And then he goes to the Raptors, a team that's never won a title before, a 59-win team. They replaced the best player on that team with DeMar DeRozan, and then Kawhi Leonard comes in, and they win the championship. Unbelievable playoff run, one of the greatest playoff runs in NBA history, among the best, to say the least. And Kawhi is the one who brings Toronto that championship. And then we put him on another pedestal, like, okay, this is the game's best player. That was the first time he had expectations in his entire career, and I felt he felt that pressure on him. It's like, okay, this is my league. I have to deliver. And that's a heavy burden to carry, which is what I think Kawhi was at. That's what stake he was at in terms of what he needed to do in terms of winning. And I felt between George Paul's many consistent collapses in the playoffs and then Kawhi not producing led to that 3-1 comeback that they blew, the 3-1 lead, that they blew against the Denver Nuggets. And I think people are still holding weight and still holding them accountable for that, which is why all year long the Clippers did not have the same buzz that they did a year ago. And they do not have any buzz like this is the team to beat all year long. So right now, I know it sounds weird, a team that's never been to the Western Conference Finals, but right now I have to pick the Los Angeles Clippers to get out of the West. The thing with the Jazz is they don't have championship pedigree. An unbelievable run. They stand at 50-19 today in the top of the Western Conference, but they don't have championship pedigree. They don't. Donovan Mitchell is a great player. Rudy Gobert is a great player, but they are not championship ready built. Kawhi Leonard is. Pat Beverly has a lot of playoff experience. George Paul has the experience, even though he's had a lot of meltdowns. Serge Ibaka's played in NBA Finals. That's the difference. That's why I have to roll with the Los Angeles Clippers right now. It's at the point where we need to roll with the guys who have the experience of being in those big moments, which Kawhi is. And again, the Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker has been a monster this year. Chris Paul, every team he's on, he elevates them a ton. I get all that. Chris Paul has been a guy who hasn't necessarily always shown up big time in the playoffs. DeAndre Ayton is really making his name. That's another team. They don't have championship pedigree. The Nuggets, I would put them right there to get out of the West. But with Jamal Murray getting hurt, we know if we're going to call a spade again, the Nuggets are not getting out of the West without Jamal Murray. When you lose your second best player in the sport of basketball, you're really not doing anything crazy. And which is why I can't pick the Denver Nuggets. So right now, unless LeBron James proves he is healthy, not 50%, not 60%. LeBron James is healthy and he's the guy he was prior to his ankle injury, then we could have another conversation. But until he proves he's healthy, the Los Angeles Clippers are the best team in the Western Conference. And I'm picking the guy who's won 2 Finals MVPs and played in championships to get out of the Western Conference at least. But now, in terms of the Eastern Conference, a lot of people are going to try to hype up the Milwaukee Bucks, which they do every year, and I don't want to hear it. I simply don't want to hear it. The Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid, a top MVP candidate, was all year long until he got hurt. I get all that. They have the number one seed. People want to hype them up that like they're a threat. Stop it. The Knicks fans out there don't even try it. Nice Cinderella story, but the Knicks are not doing anything. The Hawks are no threat. The Heat were a bubble team last year. Stop the nonsense. It's the Brooklyn Nets, and it's everybody else. The only thing that worries me about the Nets a little bit is KD, Kyrie, and Harden have played 7 games together all year long. And if we take a little flashback and look what happened a year ago, the Clippers were in a very similar situation, which they could not get a consistent starting 5 out on the floor every single game. That's kind of, you could say, what hurt the Clippers. And I'm starting to think that could be a little issue with the Nets. But I think the Nets simply just have too much star power and too much firepower as an offense to be even threatened. The Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis Antetokounmpo is a superstar in this league, a great talent. But we know in the playoffs, because now this is a thing that's been a repetition, he's not a good postseason player. He's not a very good half-court player. He makes his name driving to the paint like a locomotive, in transition, coming downhill, straight at you, and there's nothing you can do about it. When Giannis is going downhill, he's among the best players in the league. I understand his monster performances he's had against Brooklyn in 2 big wins. I'm not taking it very seriously. I'm not. I cannot take it that seriously because the playoffs are an entirely different ballgame. Giannis in the postseason, once teams build that wall on him, he does nothing. He is not a very good half-court player at all. He does not have a postgame, and we know the complete obvious, which I'm not teaching anybody by saying this. Giannis Antetokounmpo cannot shoot to save his life. His jump shot is more broke than shattered glass. I understand in the regular season we see him hit a few threes here and there. He takes threes, at least unlike a Ben Simmons. But in the playoffs, that's not something you can rely on. And the Brooklyn Nets, why I am so confident in them winning, between KD and Kyrie, let alone Harden, who people want to argue is the MVP of this league, in the playoffs, in terms of a half-court offense, in terms of here's the ball, take me to the promised land, in terms of closing out a game, you have the 2 best closers in the NBA in terms of getting you a bucket. Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, the 2 best scorers in the NBA, if you're going to ask me. And if you want to add the 3rd best scorer, you could say James Harden is among them, if not better than both of them in terms of just pure ISO scoring. Kyrie Irving, you give him the ball, you know you're getting a bucket. There is no such thing as starting Kyrie Irving in an ISO situation. He could shoot the 3. He could stop on the dime on 3 and pull up in traffic. You know he could get to his spot in the mid-range, stop on a dime, rip a mid-range in your mouth. He has a post-bank fadeaway, which, again, I still don't understand how he gets that shot off. He could finish under the rim better than anybody in the league. Whether there's 1, 2, or 3 defenders, it doesn't matter. Kyrie Irving is scoring the basketball, and that's what he does best. And when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to late in the game in the playoffs, a guy who's got ice in his veins, who's hit clutch shots on the biggest stage, Kyrie Irving is a guy I want to give the ball to, and I know he's going to hit big shots, and I know he's going to score the basketball, which is the name of the game. No other team in the Eastern Conference has a guy they can rely on like a Kyrie Irving. And then let's not even mention the great Kevin Durant, a top 3 player on planet Earth, arguably the best player in this league. In terms of scoring, in terms of a pure scorer, there's no guarding Kevin Durant, whether it's a mid-range to 3, shoot over you, attack the rim. Kevin Durant does everything and more you can need. I don't need to teach anybody about that. That's why I'm so high on the Nets. Between them able to close out games and then to purely score the basketball late in the game, no team, here's the biggest thing, no team in the NBA, not even just the Eastern Conference in the NBA, can go bucket to bucket with the Brooklyn Nets, let alone James Harden being there. Between Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, no team in the NBA could go bucket to bucket with them. So I'm going to double down on my preseason take before they even trade for Harden. The Brooklyn Nets will have a slow start. I said they would go 8-7 in their first 15 games. They went 9-6, pretty close, 1 game off. I said they'll have a slow start, and they'll hit their stride eventually. And once the playoffs come, they will get through the Eastern Conference in 15 games or less. I do not think they will play 15 Eastern Conference playoff games They will play that at most before they make the finals. Let me be very clear. I will stand by that today. And if James Harden is healthy, forget it. They may get through this Eastern Conference in 13 games. I'm going to give you a hot take right there. The Philadelphia 76ers, Ben Simmons, again, he's not a great half-court player. Sure, him going downhill, unbelievable. One of the best passers, if not the best passer in the NBA. You got other role players. You got a Seth Curry, a Danny Green shooting the lights out from three. But again, they don't have a true closer. Joel Embiid is a monster. He's going to be a mismatch nightmare. But I don't think he is going to be enough when Ben Simmons is not going to be able – Ben Simmons can't go to the free throw line, sink 2 free throws when you need him to. He's not going to be able to create his own shot in crunch time, rip jumper after jumper, because he does not shoot. Not even that he can't shoot, he does not shoot. The only team that can beat the Nets is themselves, and I don't think they will. The Brooklyn Nets are clearly the best team in the NBA, and it's simply not close. And there is really no teams that are a threat to them. There really isn't. A healthy Lakers is the only team that I could see. And again, as long as the only way is if LeBron James somehow proves he's healthy and has this monster Western Conference playoffs where they do get out of the West, then we could have another conversation about that. But in terms of the East, the Bucks are no threat. The Sixers are no threat. And after that, it's a bunch of mediocre teams who've had a nice little Cinderella story, like the New York Knicks of the world, the Atlanta Hawks of the world, and the Miami Heat. I'm not really taking them serious. I just simply believe they're a bubble team. I know when Jimmy Butler was hurt is when they really tanked, and once he came back, they started winning. Sure, I get all that, and that's great. But the Brooklyn Nets will absolutely get out of the East as long as their stars stay healthy. As long as you have Durant and Irving, I am more than confident of that team getting out of the East. And the Western Conference is really up for grabs with how LeBron James is dealing with injuries. But one thing's for sure, with the play-in tournament, with all the injuries going on, I think we are in for an exciting postseason. I can't wait for it. I want you guys to let me know who is your pick to make the finals, and I cannot wait to get this thing started. But as always, thank you for watching the Falco Takeaway. Thank you for watching my content. And if you haven't already, make sure you follow the Falco Takeaway on Instagram and YouTube to check out more of my content. Stay